the most significant characteristic of the catapult is that it can shoot heavy things far distances without using explosives like dynamite or gunpowder. One of the most important things I learned about the catapult was it's a siege weapon used in the Middle Ages. One of the catapult's strengths was that it's easy to break down walls of castles. One of the catapult's weaknesses was that it was such a large weapon and very hard to move.
The topic of my research is the cannon. The most significant characteristic of the cannon is the cannon has good range and good accuracy. Range means how far a cannon can do damage. Accuracy is when you hit your target. One of the most important things I learned about the cannon was the most important thing is that the cannon shoots a projectile, and the projectile can do a lot of damage. The first cannons were made of bronze or iron. Later cannons were made out of cast iron, which made them lighter. Round projectiles are often called cannonballs. The first cannonballs were made of stone. Then they were made out of iron. One cannon's strength is range. Another strength is that it can make large holes in defenses. One of the cannon's weaknesses was the charge is a problem because it can catch on fire, or if it gets wet, it won't work. Either the projectile is small or the barrel must be very long. This makes the cannon very heavy and hard to move.
The topic of my research is the trebuchet. The most significant characteristic of the trebuchet is that it knocks down castles and walls during battles. It was used in the Middle Ages and got its name from France, and it threw heavy stones up to 200 to 350 pounds, and it used a counterweight to throw the big heavy stones. One of the most important things that I learned about the trebuchet was that it threw heavy stones at castles in battle and crushed down anything it wanted. It was invented after the catapult and could throw heavier rocks with more accuracy. One of the trebuchet's strengths was that it could throw rocks up to 200 yards. At the time it was invented, it was very powerful. One of the trebuchet's weaknesses was that you could not carry it because it was too heavy and weighed tons and tons of pounds.
The topic of my research is the catapult. The most significant characteristic of the catapult is the arm. The arm does the most of the movement. Without the arm, how would you even throw rocks and bulldozers? One of the most important things I learned about the catapult was that it could throw over 1,000 feet. I also learned that the catapults can take about 1 year to build. One of the catapult's strengths was it was harmful to castles. Another strength was it was to hurt people. One of the catapult's weaknesses was if you build the catapult wrong, when you fired it, sometimes it would break down.
My name is Cassidy, and the topic of my research is the trebuchet. The most significant characteristic of the trebuchet is that it works by putting weight on the short arm so that the long arm raises and flings the projectile to where it is aimed. One of the most important things I learned about the trebuchet was that Mario Natocola invented it. The trebuchet was made with wood and iron and was built to knock down the walls of enemies. The counterweight trebuchet started being used in the 12th century. The trebuchet stopped being used in the 15th century when gunpowder was invented. There can be many kinds of counterweight trebuchets, but they all work the same way. One of the Trebuchet's strengths was that it has great accuracy and holds heavy projectiles. The Trebuchet also flings projectiles farther than the catapult. One of the Trebuchet's weaknesses was that soon enemies in the castle started to build lakes around the castle, so that the Trebuchet had to go back so far that it was almost impossible to fling it far enough to hit the castle.
My name is Declan, and I'm going to tell you about the catapult. The topic of my research is the catapult. The most significant characteristic of the catapult is the catapult uses tension instead of gravity like the trebuchet. One of the most important things I learned about the catapult was they put a bull on their blueprint, so if the enemy found them, they would be tricked. What they actually did was they used a sling instead. The sling is better because it threw things farther. One of the catapult's strengths was it was pretty easy to use. We know because the Greek children were taught how to use it. One of the catapult's weaknesses was that the trebuchet is stronger. It is only as strong as the tension used by the people.
Hi, my name is Gavin, and I'm going to tell you about the cannon. The most significant characteristic of the cannon is, I think the tube is the most important part of the cannon because the projectile is fired from the tube. The most important things I learned about the cannon was cannons have been used as weapons for at least 883 years. One of the cannon's strengths was cannons can be made out of almost anything, even alligator carcasses. One of the cannon's weaknesses was if the pressure is weak, the projectile will not go far.
The topic of my research is the catapult. The most significant characteristic of the catapult is the rope. The rope is what they wind up. It lets the arm go and the arm hits the crossbar. Then the missile flies into the castle. One of the most important things I learned about the catapult was what it shoots. The soldiers put the missile into the sling or bowl. The soldiers shot anything they could find. They shot rocks, burning sand, burning tar, dead diseased bodies, and heads of their enemies. The things they shot would kill or infect them. One of the catapult's strengths was it could shoot the missile up to 1,300 feet. It could shoot further than the weapons before it. One of the catapult's weaknesses was they could not take the catapult with them to the fight. They had to bring carpenters along with them so they can build the catapult out of the trees in the forest.
My name is Keenan Hobb, and the topic of my research is the trebuchet. The most significant characteristics of the trebuchet is that it's a ways to devise the energy of a ways counterweight to throw objects. One of the most important things I learned about the trebuchet was that the projectile are thrown with a very strong force for a long distance, and it always hits the same target. One of the trebuchet's strengths was the speed and the force of the projectile when it hits the target. One of the trebuchet's weaknesses was that it is too heavy to move around. My name is Keenan Hobb, and goodbye.
My name is Kelsey, and I'm going to tell you about the cannon. The most significant characteristic of the cannon is that its long tubular barrel fires projectiles. One of the most important things I learned about the cannon was the longer the barrel, the farther it shoots. One of the cannon's strengths was that it can break brick and stone walls and shoot long distances. One of the cannon's weaknesses was it's hard to aim and required multiple people and animals, horses often to move. The topic of my research is the cannon. The most significant character of the cannon
it can kill a lot of people with one shot. The most important thing I learned about cannon was China was the first place used cannon. One of the cannon stench was it shot a heavy ball to kill people. One of the cannon weakness was if it's raining, the cannon won't work at all.
The topic of my research is the cannon. The most significant characteristic of the cannon is its hollow tube with thick walls. It is usually made out of cast iron. Old cannons were loaded through the muzzle. One of the most important things I learned about the cannon was by 300 AD, a Qin dynasty scientist named Gi Hong had written down the ingredients of the gunpowder. It was made by mixing sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter. The reason gunpowder explodes is that it burns very fast. It makes gases that are bigger in volume than original powder. That propels a cannonball. First cannons were made out of bamboo tubes. A Latin name for stick is canna. One of the cannon's strengths was it made a loud noise, smoke, and flames. What scared the horses and soldiers of the opponents? It could destroy the castle wall. One of the cannon's weaknesses was it was heavy and difficult to transport. It was difficult to aim correctly, too.
The topic of my research is the trebuchet. The most significant characteristic of the trebuchet is how the counterweight helps the beam to accelerate the projectile. As the counterweight drops, the beam rotates, launching the heavy and large projectile at long distance. One of the most important things I learned about the trebuchet was it was a better siege weapon than the bolsita or catapult when traction was replaced with a counterweight. One of the trebuchet's strengths was it had a sling holding a heavy object and could be released from the guide chute at the right time for accuracy and proper distance. One of the trebuchet's weaknesses was it's large, very heavy, and difficult to move. For example, the largest trebuchet was named the Werewolf. The Werewolf took 5 master carpenters and 49 laborers while filling up 30 wagons when not assembled.
Hi, my name is Paulina, and the topic of my research is the trebuchet. One of the most significant characteristics of the trebuchet is the sling because it's the part that launches the projectile at the object. One of the most important things I learned about the trebuchet was it was a weapon used in the Middle Age to help protect the people and land. Also, some other people used it to destroy things like castles and other objects. One of the trebuchet's strengths was it could shoot an object so far and so long away up to 200 feet. One of the trebuchet's weaknesses was the people could not control where the projectile will land, and the trebuchet is so heavy it will probably take up to 45 men to pull it where they want to launch it. That is my research on the trebuchet.